Recently, I was working with one of my guitar students on improvising, and he was having some trouble kind of telling a story. And what he meant by telling a story was playing over the changes. So what I wanted to do was share that lesson with you all so that hopefully it can help you get a little bit more out of your improvising and create some cool lines. And basically what this is an introduction to how to start playing the chord changes. So many of us originally learn that, when we look at a set of chords, we can find what key the song is in, and then we can get by kind of playing the pentatonic or the scale of that key. And that's wonderful. That's a great tool to have in your arsenal. I do that all the time. But there's also times where we want to get really into the nitty-gritty and really kind of see what's going on. So let's use the example I was working on with my student earlier today, and that is this little vamp where it was basically 2 bars of a B major chord. Oh, I hit the wrong button. And my student correctly assumed that because this was in the key of E, he was just kind of playing notes in E, and it sounds great. But what he wanted to do was have it not sound as directionless as it did. Where, not to say that sounded directionless, but he wanted to get into some kind of dialogue so that you could actually get some kind of shifts happening. Maybe something more like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a trick to get you from that first result to that second result. And so the first thing that we want to do is we want to practice playing specifically. Now, there's a couple different ways that you could take to go from this. A lot of people try to start right out of the gate using the modes, and that's great. And I do that all the time when I'm playing specifically. I'll choose modes from the sound that I'm trying to achieve. But instead, what we're going to do in this case is we are going to use the pentatonic scale, because pentatonics tend to be a little bit more comfortable for students working on these new things. And furthermore, they also tend to give you the benefit of being somewhere between a full 7-note scale and an arpeggio. So you can access some cool sounds without it sounding like you're just running scales. And secondly, pentatonic scale, there's only 5 notes. It's a little bit easier to keep track of. So what we're going to do is, rather than playing, say, E major pentatonic over this whole thing, we are going to prioritize playing the B major pentatonic and the A major pentatonic over those respective chords. So when it is playing B major, I'm going to play what I would call position 1. If you're a caged person, you would call this position E. And that looks like this. So I'd start on my 7th fret of the E string and I'd play. There's my B. Then I'd check out a position of A, and this is where I will implore you. What a lot of my students do is they go, well, okay, A. All I'm going to do is drag myself down 2 frets. And that's cool, but you're not going to be kind of fluid improvising when you do that. You're going to be getting kind of pushed around by the guitar. A lot of your favorite guitar players can play the heck out of changes, but they aren't chasing the root up and down the E string while they do it. So, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to find a position of A major pentatonic that sits close to that. Lucky for me, I know all 5 positions of this scale, so I'm going to play this one. And actually, while I say that, I play a wrong note. But if we go at this again, I'm going to start from this A and play this shape here. This is the D shape. If you're a caged person, I would call it position 2. And it's these notes here. So the first step, I would say, to get familiar with where this stuff is on the neck is I would do an exercise that I call filling the canvas. Now, filling the canvas is playing every single 8th note of whatever scale you're doing. So in this case, I'm going to play 2 bars of B major pentatonic, just running the scale, and then I'm going to play 2 bars of A major pentatonic, just running the scale. So it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now A. 3 and 4 scales, and I'm just going with it. Once you get comfortable with that, you can start messing around with doing what we would call voice leading. And what voice leading is it's changing to the next nearest note in the respective scale. So when it changes, rather than going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then jumping to A, the root of my next scale, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move to whatever the nearest note is in that A major pentatonic. So as I go through this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and my closest note in the A major pentatonic scale is going to be this B. So now I'm going to switch the shapes that I'm using and I'm going to play 1 and 2 and 3. So I'm playing A major pentatonic here. And now here my closest note of the B major pentatonic is going to be this G sharp right here. So now my order is getting changed around. My closest note of A major pentatonic is going to be right around here. And if you keep doing this, you get a different kind of thing each time. And the beauty of doing it this way, a lot of my students kind of want to blow past this step because they think, oh, well, if I can figure out where the notes are, I can just start improvising faster or whatever. But one of the key things that this does, that I think a lot of my students maybe discount or don't think of at first, is that it actually teaches you where the notes are, and it teaches you how to hear when they're changing. It's drilling into your brain the structure of the chord progression that you're playing over, which is going to make improvising over it a lot more fun. So if I did that in context, I'll just do 1 or 2 rounds with the chord progression doing that. So we would have... There's me going back to B major. So I'm changing, but I'm not beating you over the head with the root. Okay, talking and doing this is one thing and there's another. So okay, we've figured out our positions, we've figured out the notes. Now, the next step that I would say to take is to try and just play short, concise statements. This is one of the first things that I think a lot of my students struggle with, is once they get comfortable with the scales, they just start running the scale when it's time to improvise. That's not what we want to listen to when we're listening to someone improvise. We don't want to hear someone just running scales. We don't want to hear all of these things. The thing that we want to hear is music. So when I say make a statement, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a definite statement, or maybe in this case, because it's 2 bars of each chord, statements, but just small little bits of notes that are clearly using those. So what that might sound like is this. There's my statement. Here's A. So I'm just playing simple little things, because oftentimes what happens is people will try to play fast things like their favorite guitar players, which is wonderful. I love playing fast things like my favorite guitar players. But one of the biggest things that you can do when you go to do this is you can try to play these short, start small, because the best lines that are fast that your favorite guitar players are playing are basically really decorated versions of a relatively simple melody. So oftentimes what happens, if you focus on just saying clear, concise, improvised statements, your ear will naturally pull you towards playing more notes, and it will be better than if you set out with the goal of, I'm going to play a crap ton of notes right now. You know what I mean? Where we go, this is the time and I'm going to do it. It will go better for you if you kind of ease your way into it and let your ear tell you, hey, maybe you should play some more notes here, rather than it being something that's being dictated by something else. So that is a really good way to go about it. And then as you get more and more comfortable with it, you can start dipping your toes into longer bits of material. So here's me improvising using the same idea of I'm just going to play notes from B major pentatonic over the B chord and A major pentatonics over the A chord. And I'm going to start out with short statements and let them evolve into kind of longer phrases. So I'm going to start out short and concise and then let it kind of go bigger when it feels like it needs to be bigger. Bad note there. Anyways, there's some kind of ideas for how you can take stuff from, not super great to maybe a little bit more precise and great. And again, just playing the chord changes. It's a really big thing that a lot of people struggle with. And that's just a really good way to kind of start working it into your playing. So if you found this useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It truly helps me out more than you can know. If you are looking to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to get in touch with me down in the description, and I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. If you are looking for a different way to support me and what I'm up to, you can check out my Patreon page, which is also linked down below. All of my patrons get early access to videos as well as cool behind-the-scenes sneak peeks that I don't really share anywhere else. Wonderful little community of guitar lovers, and I'd love to see you over there. If you're looking for a different way to support what I'm up to, you can check out my ebooks or my video courses, also linked down in the description. It's a great way to get some more in-depth educational content from me that I can go into in a 10 to 15 minute YouTube video. And last but not least, I have new videos coming out every single week, so I hope I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.